So welcome and good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Thomas. I go by Kate. And today is December 3rd, 2021, and it is about 12:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Currently recording from the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I'm going to be talking today about the solar eclipse coming up in our new moon in Sagittarius. For some of you, this is occurring right now. Others, it will be December 4th. So it depends on where you are in the world. So this new moon is occurring in Sagittarius opposite the North Node in Gemini in the 8th house there. So at the time of this recording, and of course we know that these planetary positions move, they shift, they change. But these new moons stay with us for quite some time, as well as the solar eclipses and lunar eclipses that we experience. These are energies collectively. If you look back as we've experienced these different eclipses, you'll see energies remaining and doing great shifts and changes within society in short times, usually within 6 months. And then we also see this correspond individually. So eclipses could be very, very monumental in our lives. They are opportunities for great changes and great shifts. So I just want to encourage you to just, get yourself some pen and a paper and a cup of Java or whatever you drink there. And let's just take a few moments and take a dive into Sagittarius solar eclipse happening in the 2nd house. So we have the sun and the moon, always in a new moon, are conjunct, and they are sitting 12 degrees in Sagittarius. As you see, we have a packed house, several houses of Sagittarian energy, with the only break really coming in there is Scorpio and Mars at 23 degrees. So I want to talk about what these energies are trying to communicate, what these energies are helping us to move towards, because this is new energy, and how this solar eclipse, which will be the last one in Sagittarius for 9 more years. So we will not see this again until 2029. And the new moon is, the solar eclipse is about endings here and events shifting and changing. And the new moon is about a new beginning. So we're seeing with these energies a release of something that no longer is serving us, a higher perspective with it being in Sagittarius, the luminaries, the inner planets of, the sun and the moon, and the personal planets, deeply personal planets, in Sagittarius is asking us to shoot more towards those 9th house matters that Sagittarius actually rules. And so let's talk for a moment about what Sagittarius is to get a better grasp on this energy. We'll break down the layers just kind of inch by inch here. So Sagittarius is from November 22nd to December 21st. So we are currently in Sagittarius season, thus the Sagittarius sun. We are looking at a ruling planet of Jupiter. So wherever Jupiter is right now is very important within the chart, within your own chart, and where 12 degrees Sagittarius sits within your own chart will be very important to look at. This is where that degree and this sign, you will see the eclipse wanting to do work within you, wherever this lands in your chart. And of course, this lasts for 6 months. So This is work that's wanting to be done and completed as we continually shift and move into new phases, new stages, new full moons, new moons, new eclipses, new signs, and we move toward that collective goal of wherever that North Node is sitting. So with it ruling the 9th house, we have the element of fire here, and this is mutable energy. So this is energy that is symbolized by the word idealize. Very, very optimistic, positive thinking sign associated often with wideness, bigness, girth. It is the centaur on a horse for the symbolism. This is a quest for freedom. Thus, the arrow shooting straight up towards heaven. All restriction, as well as you can look at religion, philosophy, idealism, just wanting to be free from any rigid way of being. Sagittarius energy is very direct and forthright. Sagittarians are known for the foot in the mouth kind of thing, speaking too quickly and rashly. It's good-natured energy. And always wants to be positive, with Jupiter being its ruling planet. But we see that it doesn't always end up that way for these broad, open-minded individuals. They're very blunt with their tongues, and it gets them into trouble. They are, though, very jovial, thus the planet Jupiter. And they're able to laugh at themselves. And they really don't take things too seriously unless their Jupiter's completely debilitated. Excuse me. So Sagittarius also are seeking truth in the 9th house there. They want justice. They want balance and harmony, much like Libra, but they want it in a more deeper spiritual way. And they want to see the moral nature more come forth. And they gravitate towards adventure and sports and travel. And they can be risk takers. So there's a great curiosity that rests on Sagittarians, and of course also rests within the 9th house. In the 9th house, you've got the upper part of the chart now being seen. You've got the extroverted to self coming out, then into the extroverted to others, and by the time we get to the 10th house. So it's not the bottom of the chart where Sagittarius rules. Now that's very important to understand when we're looking at a chart, just where the planets are sitting, where the sign rules, and what planet rules that sign. And then, of course, how does the planet do in a particular sign? So Sagittarians are interested in higher education and mind expansion. This is where we see philosophies and teachings and religions, texts, the gurus. This is journeys, often long distance. So this would be across states, or going all the way from where you were, instead of going across town or within 100 miles or something, but going long distances, traveling, wanting to expand its horizons. So this is the kind of sun we're sitting in, and it's right around Christmas time, the quote-unquote spiritual time of the year, where Christ shows up much more strongly, the Christ consciousness through Santa Claus somehow. That all gets mixed together into the Christmas magic that is coming upon planet Earth, especially in the West where we celebrate it now. And you can kind of just see this magic take over the air. And this is what we're talking about. It's Jupiter, it's large, it's spiritual, it's expansive, it's blessings and good luck and good fortune. And with that mutable sign of Sagittarius, it's flexible and in their approach, and they're multivalent is how you can call this. People that are easygoing usually, and allowing and accepting of others. They truly do want to be that way. But again, it's in the 9th house, and this is where you can get really caught up in your religion. And as a Sagittarius here, it can cause you, if it's detrimental and you're not, it's one of the challenges you came in with in your chart to have to balance that, then that's going to be a challenge for you personally. So that's the kind of moon and sun. That's the kind of moon and sun that we are currently dealing with up there in the 9th house of Sagittarius, but it's not in the 9th house. These energies are moving through the lower part of the natal chart, of the world chart. I've got New York up here, Eastern Standard Time, because I live in the Eastern Standard Time zone, so I always read from this area. But again, some of you switch it. You've already had this eclipse. I like to come in and read close to these energies, and I realize that means my video isn't out there that long, but that's not really what it's about that long as far as, in advance for you to see it. But there's several reasons I do that, and one of them is I like to really tune in to those energies around me. And in order to do that, I have to be closer to the energies coming in. And so it's almost 24 hours from when these energies are going to hit me full in the Eastern Standard Time. They will be hitting December 4th, 2021, 2:42, let's say, a.m., where they will be most potent. And then, of course, for the next 6 months with this solar eclipse, we're going to be feeling these themes that I'm about to break down for you. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the sun in the 2nd house and how it does there, because this is where the sun is. And if you go back and listen to some of my videos I've done, we talk about the reoccurring theme all year. You can see this, of this possessions, money, the way we view money, the way we see money, how we respond to money, what we love. This is 2nd house, Taurus, Earth, and Venus energy. And so when the sun shows up here at 12 degrees, which is almost halfway through the 30s, so it's got some maturity to it. It's been in Sagittarius now for a little bit, and it's getting into that energy and beginning to get some strength. So money matters here are going to be, it's attached to the sun ego, the masculine yang energy, yang, yang, however you want to say it, the energy that's causing things to happen, this creative power going forward onto Earth, is taking on a different type of viewpoint in Sagittarius. It is now in mutable fire energy, not fixed Earth. So you can see how it's asking us to release. It's asking us to think bigger in money. It's asking us to, with the South Node there as well, which we'll get into, this brings in this karma. This brings in this energies that have been around in your idea of collective energies and money and money within yourself, and the way that you view it and the way that you see it and how you've had to change things up with it. And we've seen that collectively with Uranus and Taurus. That's been sitting there for quite some time. And I've talked about that as well, and so have many others brought in. What is this Uranian, Turanian? What is this energy going on? But we're seeing it, and again, can't get away from this 2nd house and these eclipses and new moons and full moons. And the same message is saying, look, I really need you to take a different viewpoint here in Sagittarius. I need a higher perspective, a 9th house kind of vision, releasing what has not worked for you, clearing out, cleansing energy, moving away, because new information is coming in. With Sagittarius there, it's bringing in 9th house energies, and the moon is there, which is the mind, the emotional mind, and it's conjunct Mercury on the right side in the 3rd house in Sagittarius, in Gemini, which is air energy. Mercury's home. It does very well in the third house, but in Sagittarius, it's tough for it to see the bigger picture. It's tough for it to see, how is this all going to end? The spiritual side of it, the top-down ninth house mentality. So it's an ability to really move out and really move forward. And we'll talk about where, because we have to look at Jupiter, which is Sagittarius's planet, and that needs to be highlighted in the chart, because we do this when you have a sign, it has a rulership, and that planet matters. It needs to be heard. So a moving forward energy, and in Sagittarius blows things up and makes it big. So things that perhaps have been secret about money, particular financial transactions. Sagittarius wants fair and honorable dealings here. Sagittarius wants blessings, but Sagittarius is not concerned just about the individual. Sagittarius has a large, bigger picture. So it's trying to help us say, look, we need to move collectively in a new way in our understanding of our emotional drives within for earthy things of pleasure, earthy things involving Venus and beauty, things that we're holding onto emotionally. That is absolutely what Taurus will do in fixed earth energy. Not so much Scorpio, fixed water, because that is emotions, water. But there's a lot of, in fixed signs, there's a lot of involvement and connection to whatever that is. And it's not released quickly. So it's asking you, can you start new seeds? Can you start planning for the future? And I mean, we've got Jupiter in Aquarius in the 5th house of pleasures and fun and children. And it's asking you in your expression of pleasures and in your bed pleasures, especially things that are, your secret pleasures, so to speak. Will you enlarge and expand this for the greater good? Will you see us really as one and needing to be a more inclusive, bigger, wider opening? I see the Statue of Liberty in my mind right now. It's coming to me, and she's on the port holding her torch, and she's saying, come, come, and not so much in way of immigration here, but holding that torch, that larger picture of the masses and the bigger way of thinking. And it's really important with it conjunct Mercury to understand this is a very active and alert mind and a high level in learning and mentally stimulating projects regarding Sagittarius matters are very, very important. Sagittarius is concerned about the bigger, larger picture. And whenever we have Mercury conjunct the sun in a chart, we can have anxiety. This is where we see intellectual stimulation is not really working as well as it could be, because there's so much ego with the intellect that it can be overpowering. Now, it can be absolutely phenomenal, but you've got Mercury, Sun, Moon, North Node, and Mars all packed in that house. And I haven't even hit the asteroids, which I'm not going to hit on this time, but just the planets, so to speak. So, and one star, Arcturus, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But it's very important to see when you have these energies so close together that they're wanting to work as a team. But the question is, can they? And the answer to that is yes, but Mercury's got to understand that he needs to not get bogged down in the details, but he needs to know the details, needs to know how to move forward. Like, the day-to-day things, because Mercury is an inner planet. It's a planet that goes around quickly. It's that day-to-day energy. What can I do differently to enlarge my personal understanding of the collective in the ways of money, making money, exchanging money, feeling about money, experiencing money, having money, not having money? All these things can come into play here. And I want to read the Sabian symbol for Sagittarius. I've got it at 1221 because that's when it hits exact here. So it's going to move it into that 13 degree. That's what it does in the Sabian symbols. So I quote, Goldsmith's revised Sabian symbol for 13th degree of Sagittarius. Two lovers soar above a battlefield on the back of a winged horse, Pegasus. Absolute faith in one's ideals that translates into faith in oneself and allows one to accomplish great feats. Clearly visualizing one's goals and going after them. Rising above earthly problems. This is where we see the ninth house spiritual nature. It's getting out of this fixed earth energy, okay? And it's going up into fire mutably. It's rising up and out. Rising above earthly problems by putting them in a wider spiritual perspective. Realizing one's dreams through focused creative efforts, imaginative art, leave behind a legacy of magic. So that's beautiful, right? It's going to bring out imaginative art, a higher level of art, which actually can tie you into alchemical magic, which that's for another time and place. But I have absolutely seen artwork come out of me that I was just in the zone, as you have heard this called, in the zone, and you do things that you didn't know you were possible to do. So it's riding the wings of fantasy into the realm of one's heart's desires. So it's this faith and hope and dreaming and enlarging where we want to go. And love it says love which transcends the limits of time and space. And it can be living for life's high points, for ecstasy and the dizzying exaltation of love. So there's a balance with Sagittarius that is so important. It is a girthy sign. It can be too wide. So remember, Sabians will bring in, positive and negative, so to speak, upper ways of behaving with these energies and lower ways of behaving with these energies. Clinging to a romanticized vision of the past, okay? Again, with the South Node there, we're supposed to be letting go of something that we idealized would be a certain way, and it's not working out. So we can tend to cling here with this energy to, it's ego, and it's sitting in a fixed house. It's great that it's Sagittarius and it's mutable, but can you imagine Sagittarius sitting in a fixed house? Sometimes it wants to kick the doors down. It doesn't like restraint. It doesn't want to stay. It'll stay. It has the ability to do that, but it wants to move forward. See, it wants to bring you up into the ninth house. Living in the moment from which all true possibilities spring. Okay, so this is mindfulness and achieving great things versus falling on one's face. In the moment is the only place that we truly can make any type of changes. You have your past, that things have already occurred. You cannot change them. None of us is able to do that unless you are able to manipulate timelines. And I'm not interested in doing that. So I'm sure, could it be done? Maybe. I don't know. But we can't change the past, and we haven't lived in the future yet, although we should always intend towards great things that are going to come to us from the future. We're not there yet. We're right here in the middle, in the now, in this mindful moment where we can change and shift and make decisions that affect our past. Yes, they do. And affect our future. How do they affect our past? Because when we begin to shift and grow and move, we no longer look at the past. If we were traumatized, we no longer look at the past as the way we did before. We begin to move forward to the 9th house. We begin to grow towards the top down and the bigger reason. And we begin to come out of ourselves and move more up to a collective consciousness, because that is where Jupiter's sitting. So let me finish this. I'm going to reiterate again. Clinging to a romanticized vision of the past versus living in the moment from which all true possibilities spring. Achieving great things versus falling on one's face. Worldly savvy joined with unshakable spiritual idealism and a zest for life. That is beautiful. A zest for life. Now, when we have the moon here, the feminine moon, mother, water, intuitive, highly intuitive planet, receptive nature, it's a very easygoing attitude here and a freedom-loving nature. And emotional tie-downs, again, where are you? In the 2nd house. There could be a little bit of this pushing, and be careful with that, because that's tension and it's meant to definitely spring you forward, but it's the way that you go about it. Your clues are here in this chart of how to go about it, but understanding where you're at is imperative. So this is why I give this thorough background. So freedom-loving nature, not wanting to be tied down, open and honest to a fault, maybe. Be careful. Sagittarius has put their foot in their mouths. They do. And not all, but they can. I've gotten the brunt of it from people who are Sagittarians. Trust me, they don't have a filter, man. They'll let it fly. And this can be a come to Jesus moment in these matters in your relationships, because Venus is all about relationships, which is tied to the 2nd house. You've got to bring her in, and she's sitting in the 4th house of home. So definitely dealing with relationships. This is going to give you this new renewed energy with that Gemini North Node opposite, asking you, wow, what's going on here? What's the deeper meaning? Where are we going with this? How are we going to fit this into the destiny of the collective and my own personal destiny I feel I'm going towards? It's going to bring those questions that need to be asked. And with the moon in the 2nd house, in a fixed house, in an earth sign, the moon is going to seek emotional security by acquiring material stability. So the moon finds its support here, and Sagittarius is trying to move you out of that. So, this is emotional attachments with the moon here and the 2nd house, and attaching to possessions and things. And it's like, it's time to let go. It's time to clear the clutter. It's time to push forward. The ability to move is there. It's time to grow even deeper. You've grown so much. It really is about just going forward in what you've been studying the past couple years even, and pushing you out and forward with the masculine fire yang energy in creative projects. And remember, this is wide expansion, and the moon knows how to get full and knows how to get small. The moon has the ability to do this, but it's a new moon. So the moon is not big at all. So this is a challenge for the moon here, but it definitely can happen. Now, with the moon also considered to be conjunct Mercury, this is the ability to be highly perceptive And this is where you've got the intellect working with the intuitive. I mean, this is somebody who can sense the moods and the emotions of others. So it's going to be bringing in, along with the spiritual high wisdom from above, it's bringing in this intuitive ability for us to be able to rationalize our own thoughts, other people's thoughts, and any feelings that rise up. With Mercury there, it's going to give you that ability. You've got to watch out for the sun, though. It's in between them, right? And that's the ego. But Sagittarius loves being in fire. So this is potent, guys. This is a lot of energy working towards your good. I want to talk about Mars real quick. And Mars is in Scorpio. This is home. Scorpio's planets are Mars and Pluto. When Mars is in Scorpio, oh my goodness, this is very, very strong willpower. This is giving you the ability to know exactly what you want. Scorpio, it's opposite the 8th house where Scorpio lives, right? Gemini's there communicating with us in the North Node. And it's having the ability to be able to be like, all right, this is what's going down. This is what I want. This is how I'm going to get it. I'm going to pursue my goals. I'm going to have this great determination. And other people are going to see you as someone they should not mess with. So it's a very determined energy with it conjunct the South Node, which is what we're moving away from. At that potent 00 to 01 degree, oh my. This is some power here to be careful with and to understand. Look where it's pointing up towards the 8th house, 9th house, up towards that part of the chart. It's not wanting to stay down there. It's wanting to move. But it's in fixed energy. So this can be some incredible power struggle for some of you where, you just don't know. Because look at where this is sitting. This is so crucial. This is sitting in the very personal house of how we value things. The second house is your resources, which is your money, your resourcefulness. How do you use that money? It's your self-esteem, value, and valuables. Like it's that earthy part of you, the material security part of you. It's your attitudes towards your possessions. And you've got Scorpio sitting in there. And Scorpio's house is renewal and sex and death and rebirth and transformation, things that are deeply, deeply felt. Going down to Pluto's cave, this depth in her. This is peak experiences in the 8th house and losses, big gains, big losses, other people's money, other exchanging with other people deeper than the 7th house. This is how you do it. The 7th house is where you hook up your connections, your partnerships and marriage, your one-to-one relationships, alliances and conflicts, your legal matters there in the 7th house of Libra. By the time you get to the 8th, it's how is that transforming and changing and moving and shifting to bring you to the 9th house where you're in your higher self to then go out into the world of the 10th house. See, everything is evolving in the chart. So this is going to be some deeply personal ties that have to be changed and move towards a more us versus me, 9th house, and wanting to establish the galactic bigger picture. Now, Scorpios are diggers, investigators. They love psychology. I'm a Scorpio ascendant, thus my psychological interest in the doctorate I'm getting in psychology and, the mindfulness and the Reiki, all of this holistic naturopathic stuff. That's Scorpio. It's 8th house. It's a cult. It's hidden information, hidden things. It's deeper ways, deeper knowing. The Mars here wants to take this energy that's been buried, this energy that's been in the ground and it's been hidden. This could be careful. This could be, I've said this a couple times. It needs to be said. I need to say this, though. This is coming to me. It needs to be said. Whatever this is, it's time for the talk. It's time for, and how is it wanting to talk? I got to tell you, you've got Venus in the 4th house in Capricorn, sitting there in a very serious expression of Venus. And Venus in Capricorn is attracted to a mature way of seeing things, a balanced way of seeing things, a responsible way of doing things, very pragmatic, keeping all feelings in the home under control. So I tell you, this is involving some shifts in the home, and it's having to do with 5th house matters with Jupiter there. And this is not really knowing how to talk about it here too with Venus, because it's relationships, and she's in the sign of restriction with Saturn being represented there. And Saturn is in Aquarius in the 4th house, asking you to be more expansive, which Saturn, doesn't like to do. So you could see this conflict. And then with Pluto, my goodness, Venus will be conjunct Pluto here shortly. And wow, oh my. That is explosions on the relationship level of epic proportions, you guys. Relationships could end here. This is so huge. This is whatever hasn't been working, please hear me. This is coming strong. Whatever hasn't been working, it's time to release it. It's time to let it go. It's time. With that, I just wanted to close and read a couple things on the North Node. I thought this was really important. As you can see, we're looking at that North Node in Gemini, opposite the Moon, the Sun, the South Node, of course, the other asteroids, and Mars. So it's this yin-yang, this polar opposite energy that we need to talk about. And with the North Node being inside of Gemini, this is a very active, speaking, talking North Node. And it's in the 8th house of deep, private, occultic, hidden matters. So it's as if Gemini, in her beautiful way, is coming in and saying, it's time to talk about things that have been hidden. And Gemini isn't emotional usually. Depends on her chart, but Gemini tends not to be emotional. It's more intellect. The planet that rules Gemini is, of course, Mercury. Mercury is a very rational planet. So it doesn't really like emotion that too much. And the lunar nodes, just to point out for you here, are 2 points. You have the South Node and the North Node. And they're where the moon's orbital path crosses the plane of the ecliptic and the plane of the Earth's orbit around the sun. So symbolically, they represent talents, life path, destiny. There's so much to the North and South Node. I definitely will be doing a video on that at some point because there's so much to be said. I don't want to dig too far in there. But it's collectively, at any moment in time, wherever the North Node is, where the collective energies are trying to take us. So does it last? Of course not. The North Node moves just like all the other positions. And incidentally, the North Node moves backwards. Does not go through the chart forward. It moves backwards. And it's in retrograde. So it's sitting, not moving at all. And it is conjunct the asteroid Ceres. And this is that need for nurturing. This is the mother. This is the relationship between the mother and the child and taking care of people. This is relationships that perhaps have been strained due to health issues. This is a challenging place for Ceres to be, because it is Scorpio energy there after all. Even though it's in Gemini, it's going to have some of that Scorpio feel, and she's going to be very forthright. The mother's going to have to be very forthright in her speech. That is also in retrograde. And again, Ceres represents the fourth house, where Venus, relationships, Pluto, Saturn are sitting. So that is, super important to understand, what the message is that Gemini is trying to speak to the collective. And when you have this Gemini North Node, it's this great need to share your awareness with others. When you have a Sagittarius South Node, this is that, as if Sagittarius is saying, okay, fine, but I don't want to stick around and explain things to you because I can't learn anything that way. So it wants to move away from that energy and go forth, that higher ninth house intuitive energy. And where is it taking you? It's taking you to the eighth house up there in Gemini. So it's interesting the way that plays out there. The interplay between the eighth, second, and the ninth house. You have to understand the Sagittarius energy here in the North Node, South Node. This is an obsession with learning, but no interest in using your knowledge in any practical way. I'm taking this information now, some of it from Donna Van Toen, the Astrologer's Node book. And some of it's mine, some of it's hers, but that was a direct quote from her. So you're going to see this challenge or difficulty with establishing any lasting relationships, because you're more interested in moving up and out into the newer knowledge. So it's asking you to look at the relationships that you have and how they need to transform and how they need to change and they need to grow toward a more Gemini North Node, expansive, airy, mercurial intellect type of communication. It's channeling this information in Gemini. It's being able to speak with your intellect and being able to form your communication in a very balanced, harmonic way about deep, hidden spiritual things with it in the eighth house. So this is not easy to be able to manage this energy, because in that second, it's the earning for the self, second house, and then the eighth, it's shared energies with others. Much like the ninth house, but in a different way, it's resources that are being shared, where Taurus collects them, loves them, sets a firm foundation upon them, earth energy. Scorpio wants to be fixed in the watery ways of the expansion of sharing with others. So it's really important to understand how the houses and the signs work in each one. And, just to talk about the ninth house real quick, because of the strong Sagittarius energy, I'm going to read this from her book. And she says about the ninth house: the hang-up centers around education or learning, and a lack of self-restraint invariably plays a major role. This person is often so easily swayed by his or her environment that life is spent moving from one bandwagon to another. A lack of continuity is often seen too, making a little learning truly a potentially dangerous thing. Occasionally, we find the reverse intellectual snob, one who values manual dexterity in just about any form, but has no use for mental dexterity. And what that is that's the North Node in the ninth house that could potentially be in the challenged position. And so the conflict of interest, so to speak. So we want to remember that our communication shouldn't be like the twins of Gemini, where it's one way, then it's that way, and it's this way, and it's that way, and it's hot, and then it's cold. Geminis can do that. Their Mercury, sometimes, depending on how it is in their chart, isn't as balanced as it should be. So with Mercury, her planet, conjunct the moon, this is where we're seeing, the sun and the moon. This is where we're seeing, how does Mercury, how does the intellect want you, how do you take your brain? Because that's how you're going to figure this out. With Mars, the energy, and how do you go forward into this newness? And that's really what this chart is asking of you. And I'm going to close with just a couple beautiful quotes that I read that I thought summed this up beautifully. It was our belief that the love of possessions is a weakness to be overcome. Its appeal is to the material part, and if allowed its way, it will in time disturb one's spiritual balance. Therefore, children must early learn the beauty of generosity. They are taught to give what they prize most, that they may taste the happiness of giving. Ohiyesha, Dr. Charles Alexander Eastman, Sante, Dakota, Sioux. And this proverb is a Seneca proverb that says, "He who would do great things should not attempt them all alone." So I leave you with that, and I bid you well. I hope that you are having wonderful new moon in Sagittarius, December solar eclipse energies, and taking advantage of the portals that these eclipses open for the next 6 months. May we walk and receive and delight and balance and harmonize these wonderful new moon energies as we welcome in the higher perspective, the more Jupiterian, the more Aquarian forward thinking of our collectiveness upon planet Earth. Namaste. Namaste.